And welcome to the Good Morning Education Show. Good morning, good morning, good morning. My name is Rotimi Eitayo, and I'm excited to be here live and direct. And we are always excited to see you. We are always excited to share with you. We're always excited to host you and to have you on the show. And today is going to be fantastic. It's going to be great. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be engaging. Yesterday we had a fantastic time. We spoke about raising standards for regulators, and it was as if the day should not end, as if the show should not end. And this is what always happens on the Good Morning Education Show. And today is not going to be an exception. We are streaming from Lagos, Nigeria to West Africa, and of course to Africa and the entire world. If you're just joining us for the first time, please do let us know. We will acknowledge you, we will appreciate you, we will celebrate you for joining the show today. And if, of course, it's not your first time, but of course you're joining, please do let us know where you're joining from. Tell us your location, tell us where you're streaming at, and then also please participate, join in the conversation. Let us see your comments in the chat box, whether it's from Facebook, whether it's from YouTube, whatever part of the world you're on. Come in and sharing with us on the conversation. And of course, we always expect that questions should be asked. So do not feel like it's a disturbance or it's some level of distortion. Do ask the questions. And of course, we will be willing, ready, and available to answer questions pertaining questions that apply to the conversation of the day. And we're always joined by strong experts, strong voices, top leaders within and around the world of education from time to time. And these people actually are like the backbone of the show every day, Monday to Friday from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. We always have our fantastic analysts. We have Safety Chick, also known as Ugochi Obidegu. And then we have Titi Adeosi, the co-founder of Nigercades. We have Okenfa Ajayi. We always call her KK, the One Woman Republic. And then we don't stop there. We also have a prophet in the house. Well, of course, we call it the tech prophet, and that's Jude Ashedo. And we also always have the privilege and the opportunity to also be joined by Ebenezer Odetola Israel, the founder of CME, Creative Mind Educators, and also the Free University platform. And okay, we don't just stop there. We also have our curriculum theorists, our experts in the house, also known as Rhoda Odigbo. And of course, listening to these strong voices, powerful people, experts, passionate people who are also thought leaders in their right, and getting to hear their diverse views, different dimensions at which they approach some of the conversation that we have. It just helps you have a robust understanding, a robust conversation. And then, of course, we use that opportunity to learn together. We take it a step further. We share together. We even move on to grow together as well. And I believe that as you join us, as you spread the word, as you say the word to someone out there who needs to be a part of this show, whether as a group, whether as a school, whether as a unit, whether as a team, whether as friends, live and at the replay, I'm sure you'll find it an enriching time. And let's just go straight to the show. And I'm going to welcome the one and only Ugochi to the show this morning. Ugochi, good morning. How are you? Ugochi, how are you
Good
this
morning,
morning?
Mr. Ritimi. I'm very well, thank you.
Fantastic. Good
Good morning,
morning.
Mr. Ritimi. I'm very well, thank you.
You're bringing
How
on
are
your
you too?
corporate. I'm very well. And of course, it doesn't remove the fact that you still abandoned me. Yesterday, you didn't even check up on me to see what happened. I'm sure you heard about the lockdown yesterday.
Lockdown.
You see, you don't know. Now you know. Yesterday, everywhere was locked up and it wasn't easy moving around.
Okay, yeah, I heard that the roads were barricaded,
Oh,
that it was really tough.
really?
My brother got home, I think he left his place of work maybe around 4. He got here around 9 p.m.
Oh,
and it's been crazy. Yeah.
all right. Yes. Um, like we normally do, I was just giving an overview of what happened yesterday, and we had a great conversation speaking about raising standards for regulators. That was yesterday. And we normally tell people that our conversations are driven by actually social realities within the world of education. And we try as much as possible to also, feel the pulse of the moment. And of course, we know what's current out there is the protest. A lot of people are protesting, a lot of people are agitating, a lot of people are activating the energies from their inside, trying to speak about the things that they feel should be right within society. And we are also trying to use this opportunity to actually take a retrospect within the world of education. Are there things that we should be demanding for? Are there things we should be looking at? Are there things that we should be striving for? And not from the place of positive, of negative energy or from a place of shutting things down, but from a place of conversation, activation, inclusion, integration, of course, eventually application as well. I think that it's necessary for us to engage everyone across the value chain of education so we can get the best and we can make the most out of the things that we ought to do. And today will not be different because we are going to be taking a step further in the conversation. And our topic today is almost like what we did yesterday, but we're just changing the focus. So we spoke about raising standards for regulators yesterday. And today, we're going to be talking about raising standards for teachers. Raising standards for teachers. Sometimes it's very heartwarming or it's very delighting, to listen and to hear about conversations about you talking about someone else, talking about something else, talking about a different part of the cheese, and then you smile and then you know so yes, it's true, it's true, it's true. And until you just find out that the next part of the conversation is now brought to your doorstep, talking about you. So I'm sure teachers yesterday would have been so excited, say, tell them, yes, give it to them like it's hot. But today we're coming back to it. Can
I see
never
they
leave.
hurt.
So we're talking about raising standards for teachers. And before we do that, we'll go over straight to, look at the headline news, and then we'll come back after the headline news, and then we're able to do that. All right, so let's have the news, and then we'll be back. And we're back and we're live. This is the Good Morning Education Show. We're excited this morning. And of course, please do let us know where you're streaming from, connecting with us from. We'd like to hear your thoughts. We'd like to hear your voice. If possible, we'd like to see your tweets or chat or stuff like that. Please do let us know. And I'm also joined by Ugochi Obidegu, and she's also known as the safety chick, the one and only. There's none like her. There will be none after her. There's none before her. She's just the original safety chick in the building. So, Ugochi, are you
Yes,
laughing?
sir. I'm laughing. You can hype somebody. Good. This is when they say, somebody's gassing you up. This is it, man. Anyway, let's talk about the news. So,
Titi
apparently,
is
the
in the
SARS.
building actually. So let's get to
Oh,
hear
good
from
morning,
Flo.
Mrs. Adewasi.
Good morning, Stacey. Good morning, Rotimi. Hello, hello.
Hello. City of
Yeah.
Hello Republic.
Stacey, you are going to comment on the news. Go ahead.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
Yeah. 1-0.
Yeah. All right. So the protest is actually leading to a sort of shutdown of the economy because yesterday now the Lagos State the Commissioner of Education in Lagos State has mentioned that schools have to revert to online methods and um the other methods available to pass on knowledge to children because going to a physical school building is getting more difficult and to ensure safety of the students and staff. So teachers should schools should close, and then, of course, NECO has also attributed the postponing of their exams to the protest. And those two are particularly interesting to me because it's now also causing another break in transmission. We already knew how things were, earlier in the year, and then now this again. So it's a challenge, and I'll just appeal to everyone, every educator, every student, because the students also need to take their own feelings into consideration. I don't think it's been fair on the emotions of students. Open today, close, and all that. So we also need to appeal to everybody, understand what is going on in the country, and also appeal to our young people that are protesting that it's time to actually make more targeted steps towards strategic moves. Let me put it that way. Let's make strategic moves because the truth is we cannot protest forever. We can protest to a point, make certain strategic moves. And I'm sorry to me, see how your eyeballs are coming out. Make certain strategic moves and then, of course, decide when to do online or offline as the case may be. But to ensure that we do not lose sight of what we have currently achieved, we must be willing to also consider making strategic moves so that other things can also happen seamlessly. The other thing that got my attention is the fact that the federal government has said, okay, they have said that they're going to release 30 billion naira to ASU so that lecturers can be sorted out. That was interesting. I'm also happy to see that schools in the north are also planning to resume. Well, it's looking like the protests are not really happening as much in their part of the country because while others are planning to shut down briefly for safety, they are opening up. Well, it doesn't look like maybe a lot is going on in that side. And then, of course, I'm really happy to hear that a teacher from Adamawa is the Multina Teacher of the Year. That was really so good to hear. Yeah, so
5
those are my
million now.
thoughts. 1.5 million.
6.5. We want 6.5 million.
6.5. Interesting. I hope that will be the stand. That will be that should be motivation for every other person organizing educational events to up the amount being given because it almost seems like when money is given for entertainment stuff, it shoots way off the roof. But then when it comes for brain stuff, well, not like the other ones may not really have some brain aspect to it, but you get what I mean. When it comes to the educational ones, the money is not really as high. So I hope that this is going to encourage sponsors, organizers of educational games, events, competitions to raise the ante, so that people do not feel that it's only when it's entertainment that there are better benefits.
All right. Thank you so much. Titi, do we have comments from you? Were you able to participate in the news?
Yes, a bit. I think the major headlines is the fact that Lagos State has closed schools. I like the point safety chick um came from, but I told some school owners when all this COVID was happening, And I said, no matter the low-cost school that you are in, you need to plan for the fact that in the future, there'll be more of this open and close, open and close. So that's honestly,
No, I'm laughing. It sounds like a song. Open and close.
You know, so I know the song. When I just think, taking the angle of how do you plan as a school owner, how do you plan? I feel you need to have this plan B well thought of. And what I was encouraging is that, yes, I know your school is low cost, but you need to start getting the parents to find a way to, acquire devices for their children. There are a lot of now flexible plans that they can use. So when this kind of thing happens, it's easy for people to, just move online. Even before Lagos State had announced, the schools that suffered last week had already gone online. They had already told the parents by Thursday. They announced to their parents that please will be going online. My son's school by this Monday, they had told them that the whole of this week it will be online. We didn't even know that Lagos State was going to announce, because they had already seen the stress between drop off and pick up. There are a lot of things very unknown, and they were just proactive. So one of the things I take from this is the need for school owners to be proactive. Begin to plan. This year is COVID and the protest and enter. Next year, you don't know what it's going to be. You need to have this way by when there are breaks in transmission, you as a school and the community that you have can easily move on online. Now that COVID has opened our eyes to see that EdTech really is the way the way to go. So I think that's my comment. I'm excited about the price for teachers, and I think what I would just want to appeal to is more corporates to come out. The way they support so many things, the way they promote so many things, they usually promote a lot of things for the students. I think they should also extend that to the teachers. Extend a lot of their social corporate responsibilities beyond building physical structures, beyond providing exercise books, of doing things for the students. They should try increasingly do more for teachers, knowing that one quality correct teacher can go a long way. Be in limited resources, and they will really, if it's not about ticking the boxes, if they really want to make an impact, it really starts with doing a lot more for the teachers. So that's, I think, I'm excited. The prize money is really fantastic. I pray for him to use it wisely because that's also the problem. For him to use it wisely, because now all your brothers will come out and say, I tell you,
have you not 1 million?
When you say you're raising funds, they think it's you're trying to get a grant. They think it's like that dash money to come and do party and no one bed. And everybody comes and tells you about
There are problems.
I'm telling you, yeah. Also happy about the ASU strike. As someone that grew up in a system of constant ASU strike, we're always happy when it's all over. So I think the students have been home since when, even before the COVID, they were on strike.
Before COVID.
And because of how unknown things are, one of the things that people can't do is use the strike wisely. In retrospect, I wish that when I look back at my period when we had strike, I'd use that time. Of course, we didn't have the internet the way we have it now, where you could do a lot of courses and all that, but where you could go and get jobs for a month or two. It's just productivity going down the drain. That's just the painful part about all this. So I'm happy that they are seeing even if it has ulterior motives underneath. I'm still happy that the students, who are the people that are really affected, can get back to school.
I'm excited that Titi, you're speaking as a strategist, ulterior motives, because definitely once schools begin to resume and all those kind of things, they want to reduce the number of people who go to the streets. So, all right, so back to the conversation of the day. So we had a great one yesterday talking about raising standards for regulators. And today we are taking a step further. We'll be talking about raising standards for teachers. Teachers had an holiday yesterday. We spent some time focusing on the regulators, and they were excited. But today we're coming back to them, and we're coming back for them. So raising standards for teachers. What is available today? And in retrospect, looking at the tomorrow. Of course, saying tomorrow is not just a day; it's saying tomorrow in terms of a reality. I think the time has come for us to spare no one. Raising standards for regulators, yes, but we need to raise standards for teachers. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Titi. I'd like to hear your thoughts, Ugochi. So we'll start this conversation this day. So, Titi, if you don't mind, let's start with you. Raising standards for teachers.
Rotimi, I don't know if it was me, but your line was breaking. I don't know whether it was my line. Can you just repeat?
I said we're going to be starting with you. So raising standards for teachers. Let's start with you. Raising standards.
Okay, I think in raising anything, I think it starts with the point of defining what these standards are, so that it's something that's clear to everyone. When you say, people are looking for a job and they say the standard is you have to have a 2-1 in this, then they've, set the bar. So for me, it's have we defined what the standards are? There are two types of standards. There's paper standard, the one you put on paper, whereby you say the person has to have yeah, we all know the reality of our environment, which is the paper one. Someone has a BSc or B.Ed or whatever. There's that paper one. Then how do you also check the real thing? Because beyond teaching, beyond the papers, having the certificate, there are just some should I call them attributes that make a good teacher, a good educator. So that's why I would say we need to define the standards. We need to have a way of checking out the standards. I know with a lot of public school, a lot of these things are quota based, a lot of it are filling with your relatives, and that's part of what our problems. It's the same thing in private school. Some things in the private school are, they say, oh, they want someone that is a university graduate. It doesn't matter that the person really doesn't, I don't want to say doesn't have teaching skills. I put that in quote. But they've said, that's why I say that there's a difference between the paper standard, which is like a minimum requirement, and then what really does it take to be the teacher of the 21st century. And I think that's also another thing that's important. The teacher of the 21st century, in my own mind, needs to have 21st century skills. So we have a lot of good teachers, and that's fantastic. But I think they are still in the, I don't want to call it stone age, but sort of, they're still they are still in the stone age. So it's also getting those good teachers to come up with 21st century skills, because it will allow them to even be better, completely out of this world teachers. So a teacher that is already fantastic, that now knows how to use the internet and use technology, she would just blow the kids out of the class. So that's why I said, when we start with the word standard, what do we expect now? And we need to look beyond paper standards. Like I would like to say, those paper standards are like the bottom level, the foundation. What would really make a 21st century teacher? I think that's where I would say, let's start with what are the skills that are required beyond the paper certification.
All right, so we have Rhoda in the building. Rhoda, welcome.
Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. Wherever the conversation.
I'm going to expose Rhoda this morning. I'm going to expose Rhoda.
What did I do?
Now you're begging stylishly. What did I do?
I am begging.
Okay. So you have to sing the song you sang this morning. You know the song now.
Yes, now I can. I'm ready.
Yeah, 1, 2,
In
go.
it with the girls. 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock.
I remember.
8 o'clock is the time for school. 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock
I
in the
hope you're matching as you're
morning.
singing it.
I'm matching. Oh, I'm matching.
But sorry, oh, this is actually. I remember our primary school being filled with so much assembly songs. I mean, like the songs there.
Mhm.
Rhoda,
I'm telling
Rhoda,
You cannot
Rhoda
sing
was
this song and be
singing the
standing in one
remix.
place.
That's the remix. It's sounding remix. You know the way they
Yes.
put out.
He
That's
had
not.
to impose Venice to
There's the colonial version.
he had to add the butter to it.
Oh my God. Yeah, so it's a remix. That's the remix. After so
Uh,
many years of more education, of course, a remix has
yeah,
happened. As if we were talking about standards here. Come on.
yeah. They give the song diva. The song that travel.
Oh God. Well done,
So
guys.
thank you. It's good to have you here today. We're speaking on raising standards for teachers. Yesterday we started the conversation on raising standards for regulators. And today we're talking about raising standards for teachers. And Titi kind of opened the floor by saying that there's need for us to define what the standards are, because that probably will even be a very good place to start. And she also went further to talk about the realities that it's not just, of course, public and private, but we need to look at it from the angle of the delivery, from the angle of employment, from the angle of so many things you mentioned. And which
Mm,
actually brings me to one factor that I normally try to, use to shape people's perspective on conversations like this. We need to realize that, of course, while defining what the standards are, we need to also understand that there are actually triggers or factors that actually leads to standards. Number one is change itself.
mm,
So change just can actually desired change or pictorial change or envision change can actually lead to us saying, you know what, there has to be standard. Then
mm,
number two, industry, and which is very profound. Industry change will always determine organization change. Organization change will always determine individual change. So the education industry, the teaching industry, the school industry, as it witnesses change just from the industry level, you just find out that you have no choice as an organization, that's a school, as a sector, as a ministry, and then of course as educators and practitioners, you just begin to change because what, there's an industry change. And then advocacy, by the virtue of the fact that you're able to see better, you're able to think better, you kind of feel and know and project better. You can actually use that to drive change. So the drivers of change is change itself, industry, and advocacy. And that's what really leads to standards, because when we look at the change happening, you're able to raise standards. When you look at the industry in itself, you're able to raise standards because there's no reason why we should function less or settle for less. So, Rhoda, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is a topic that is so dear to my heart. Like, I mean, everybody who knows me knows that I call myself a teacher. Will always do. And for me, this is the concern. Something that I'm not even going to try to be overly passionate. I'm going to calm down and share my thoughts because
Okay. Brother, don't make
because
promises you
this
can't
I do. And let me just not start making promises I can't keep. But I'm going to try to calm down because it's a very important topic, very significant for a lot of things. I think that even, and I will go back to NSA's movement. I think that what we're saying is as a result of some kind of better education that a couple of people have received. Hey, it could be a combination of self-education, a combination of opportunities, to receive better education. But the point is that a level of better education or an awareness by default from that better education is the result of what we're seeing, the group of people who understand their place and their voice and how to activate it. I mean, we know that countries that have excelled in education use a wide area of things, really very targeted, purposeful strategies to build an outstanding teacher workforce. That's just the truth. All across the globe, countries are figuring it out, are trying to say to themselves, how do we improve education? And it's even countries that are already under the OECD top 10 rankings, still thinking through how to improve their teacher workforce, or even just as the topic references, how to raise standards. I mean, my professor once told me, that when we say raise standards, he finds it quite uncalming, because standards are standards. And then what do you do when you want to then lift standards? But what are you trying to do then? Because then that means you didn't have a standard. But and all of us were taken aback. It's like, oh, okay, raise the standards. Oh, okay, what does that mean? But what is standard is relative. So that was what our argument was. And we went back and forth on that conversation. But I think that even just learning from what other countries have been doing, and I think there are examples for us, ranging from countries that look like our culture system, countries that are as diverse as we are, countries that have a large population as well, and countries that are within this African context, within our geolocation and things like that. I think that there's so many things. For me, one of the very critical things, I mean, I read something not too long ago, and I just put those points out. I mean, I think that for me, standards, when you're looking at about 5 things, for me, I would say attracting and recruiting teachers is one of the ways that we should, think through raising standards. And I am now talking about what we should consider in trying to raise our standards, because all those things become kind of like the backbone upon which we rise in developing policies that help us to raise standards. So for me, I know that, being a country like Nigeria, where we have these kinds of, difficulties, teacher shortages, and not for any other reason, but because it's not attractive, then, because look, we have talent. We keep saying it, talent is in abundance in Nigeria, but opportunity is not. An opportunity can be relative, because, what if the opportunity that presents is under your what's it called, opportunity cost? It has no value. So there's that. But I'll say attracting and recruiting teachers, one of the things we should look at. Teacher preparation, one of the things we should look at. Of course, professional development, one of the things we should look at. Compensation and evaluation, one of the things we should look at. And of course, teacher distribution. And we know the reason why teacher distribution is key. I mean, when you think about what's happening in, I think it's in China that they have that saying. That saying that, was it China or is it Singapore? I think it's one of those countries. They have this saying, I'm going to try to remember it now. Gosh, help me. I'm going to try to remember that saying. Something about 21st century teachers, and I think I think what they were saying is, okay, for example, in Singapore, they have this policy of teach less, learn more, right? And that frees up time in the school day for teachers to engage in professional development, as well as planning and working, with students outside their classroom, So like, for example, every teacher in Singapore is guaranteed 100 hours of professional development every year. Guys, do you know what 100 hours is? Like literally in a work year. Rotimi, 100 hours. And so, and if you compare them with the teachers in the US and those in Asia, they spend fewer hours teaching classes and more hours providing feedback to students individually, or meeting with families collaboratively, diagnose classroom problems, and at the same time design solutions. So it's a trade-off. My voice is beginning to be louder, sorry. So this, they're saying things that we need to apologies. I'm so sorry. Apologies there. But, I think this is just like, everybody knows that this is a passionate topic for me. And even just like, every day I'm just asking myself significant questions. Rhoda, what would you have done differently if you were sitting at the top of, the ladder? One thing I know that I'll do is to pool talents to help me think through, and then be very serious about investing honestly in ideas I know that there are a lot of ideas, but we also need to come with our teacher template and how to our standard or recruiting of raising standard template for them. So those are my 5. I can't remember which country it was that they have to have 21st century teachers who will be teaching 21st century children. I will find it and I'll say it. So let me pause now, but let me go and find that statement and I'll come back and share it. But those are my 5, attracting and recruiting teachers, teacher preparation and teacher distribution. We should talk about teachers because that's part of, raising standards. Where is equity in this conversation? Because again, you need to take teachers to the right places, not just to raise the standard or the quality. When we have done all those whole professional developments and we have created like that policy of 100 hours minimum, things like that, then compensation, evaluation, and all of those things. So let me pause so you guys can, let me hear from you.
Okay, so I'll speak about it from the personal angle because I really like how Mrs. Adeosi and Mrs. Odigbo have spoken about it already. So I'll just speak about it from the personal angle. So the thing is, if a teacher finds his or herself in the teaching profession, if you are not a teacher, but somehow you found yourself in the education space, I believe that as an individual, you should just have that personal drive to want to do things well. It shouldn't, you're doing things well should not be dependent on a policy, not be dependent on your school owner breathing down your neck. You as an individual, you have a responsibility to be excellent at what you do, because it's one thing for the standards to be there, the policy to be there, but if you as an individual you refuse to be excellent, then you are also going to still be a problem to the system. And so I want to I want to really speak to you to the angle of teachers being personally responsible, saying, okay, this is where I find myself. This is what doing this, even if I do not have the right resources. So when we had the training for SUBEB and Lagos State government some months ago, I think it was last month we had that, and even with the teacher not having in their best to make sure that these children, while these ones are struggling with what they have and still trying to do quality work, we have those who are in seemingly highbrow schools who are not doing the most, who are just just coasting basically. And so that tells me that it's at the end of the day, it's going to be a personal decision, to want to have good standards. That is why we would have a teacher in Ogun State who would connect his students to a classroom outside the country just because he wants to give them the best. Not because he was in the best school, but he just knew that, okay, even though I'm not in the best school, what are the things I can do to make these children in my care better? How can I improve their experience? And so at the end of the day, it boils down to the individuals taking personal responsibility, looking for how can I be better? What do I need to learn so I can give these children the best? What are the opportunities I need to tap into so that I can give my kids the best? What are the things I need to learn? Because when teachers begin to have that individual mindset, you will see that regardless of where they find themselves, whether in a local school, a public school, or any of the highbrow private school, they will always keep striving to give the best. So those kind of teachers will make our work really easy, because by the time the standards are set, and all those sort of things, because we already have people who are committed to excellence, it just makes everything flow easily. But if the teachers themselves do not have the drive to be excellent, they are just, anyhow, anything goes, then it's a problem, because it means that if nobody is supervising them minute by minute, they won't do the right thing. And nobody would be supervising you minute by minute. You would need to take initiative by yourself. So I think that as we plan for standards across the different areas, educators themselves need to commit to personal excellence. I like what Mr. Digo just mentioned about how she was asking herself, if she finds out the highest, what will she do? And she talked about bringing in best minds to work with her and think through situations. That is how excellent people think. They are not thinking, well, if it's not there, I won't bother. They are thinking of, okay, even if I don't have all the knowledge myself, I have to an extent. Who are the others I can bring together so that we can even do more? And that is just the attitude that would help us as a country. So that's my thoughts.
I totally agree with you. Rotimi, sorry to jump in. I know you wanted to do something. I'm sorry. Apologies. But I totally agree with Safety Chick. You see that even though I do clearly run away from outlier stories, but you see, outlier stories often are a reflection of what's possible, and then it helps to motivate and inspire. Now, of course, in a country like Nigeria, where we significantly have teacher shortages, I don't know that we do a good job at really painting the picture of the teacher shortages we have in this country. It is real. Our classrooms are empty. And of course, we know that our classrooms are already large. We don't have the physical infrastructure to encourage to get all the children in, and still we have teacher shortages in spite of that. So that I agree, but my focus is always on, when I mention teacher preparation, my North Star was teacher colleges, teacher education, the teacher education system we have. Because one of the critical things in raising standards is preparing a set of people to launch into the education world. Now there are some countries that some countries, high performing countries, we call them, countries like Finland and Singapore, they actually do limit the number of candidates accepted into teacher education programs, because of course they want to attract the best, right? And so within the system, the education system, it is harder for you to get in. But that's Finland and that's Singapore, right? Not really our situation. Right? And so we need to now think through, how do we ensure that happens? Most of the criticisms we've received about our teacher education programs in all of the colleges of education and things like that, where will you be able to implement raising whatever policy reforms to create to raise standards, is that it's just too damn theoretical, and that these universities just do not take responsibility for the quality of education that their graduates, should have. The graduates, so that is also a concern, that our colleges of education are not moving fast. They are not moving quick enough. They're not responding to all the new diversities and the changes in the economy, and like you said, in industry, and especially the essential skills that are required. Where you see a teacher still making children to copy one freaking PowerPoint into their notes. It's ridiculous. And so that's what we're saying. So for me, teacher prep is our colleges of education. What are we telling them? What are we trying to make them to do? Was it not Singapore that said, they came out in 2009? Singapore, in 2009, the central theme of their teacher education model, 2009 people, 2009, let it sink in, 11 years ago. And their central theme,
not 60 years ago.
11 years ago, their central theme was 21st century learners need 21st century teachers who do not only possess 21st century literacies themselves, but can also create the learning environment that enable their students to develop such skills. Please, that was 11 years ago. I can only imagine it when I come into the new, what country? That was Malaysia. You see what Malaysia did to drive the changes in the education they're currently experiencing, because it's a journey. It is a journey. And so when we're talking about, so two things are so key for me in raising standards: attracting and recruiting, and then the teacher base that we have, the teacher prep, all of the colleges, what's happening there? Because I told you guys a story. I was fortunate to be with a colleague of mine who's both of us. He's the president of PACPIN, that's the Association of Curriculum Theorists in Nigeria and Practitioners in Nigeria. I serve as the vice president. He invited me to just one of the colleges down the road, right? And when I say down the road, I'm sure you understand. And I was there, and I was with a whooping number of student teachers. Not up to 1% not up to 1% of them wanted to come out from that state, that situation, this period of their life into the classrooms. That should worry us, because we're saying we have teachers. And another thing is, oh gosh, there's so many things to talk about. But point is, the colleges of education where we're trying to attract and recruit them, already they're there, because they don't get into medicine, they get into biology education. They don't get into medicine, they get into microbiology. They don't get into micro, they get into biology. They don't get biology, they get into biology education. And then they were stuck with and they come in because they believe they are settled for less. Guess what? That's a unique period to transform their minds. The curriculum that they're facing, that they're experiencing, should change them. It should change them to believe that they are champions, that there's significance in driving change in the country, that they are towards national development, that it should make meaning of what lesson plans mean, of what collaboration means, on how to come together to drive change for a particular child, that they are instruments for change, that there are so many things need to happen. And then you need to do away with the way you teach them. So when we're talking about raising standards, you can't talk about raising standards without teacher colleges. My voice is going higher again. I'm sorry.
Raise it.
Passion.
It's a hashtag. I'm sorry.
I don't know if my internet
Welcome
is
to
fine.
the show. KK is in the building.
KK.
Welcome.
KK, welcome.
Hi everyone. Hi everyone listening.
Hi, Miss KK. Miss KK, school is closed, right? School is physically closed, but you're working. You're online. School is not closed. You see, that's it. 21st century people designing 21st century structures for learning to continue. Take it over. Oh man.
I mean, this is a good topic. Really stands for teachers, and I can see that. I mean, I caught him. I caught the tail end of Rhoda's speech, you know, and it was a good one because you can't raise standards without looking at the people who are instituting the standards first of all, and the people who are actually preparing the teachers to ensure that the standards are upheld. So yeah, without the teacher training colleges, it's almost impossible to say that we can do anything about standards. And then, of course, like what we talked about yesterday, the regulators, we need to, of course, have regulatory bodies who have set the standards, and the standards that, I mean, using data says this is where we want to be eventually. So, but this is where we are now, and this is a roadmap for getting there. So that is how we can raise those standards, looking at each teacher, not necessarily. So, I mean, I love, so from my own experience, right? So I know we have very little time left on the show. From my own experience, I've hired or had the opportunity to work with people who have actually went to school to study education. So some of them wanted to study education. Some of them not so much. They were given education, you know, like what Rhoda just alluded, just mentioned, right? But I met these people, and I've also met people who had no intention. I met them during NYSC, or they came in and were looking for a job. And I said, okay, you know what, there's something here, diamond in the rough, you know what, come in, let's see how we can work with you. So those subsets of people are a subset that I've had the opportunity to work with. And what I've noticed is, for a lot of the people, some of them who, and that's where the mindset thing comes in, right? For some of these young people that I've worked with, some who didn't want to study education still have that mindset of, it wasn't really what I wanted to do in school. So even though they're working with it, they're not almost 100% convinced about what it is that they're doing. And we all know how strong the mind is in terms of getting things done. However, I've also met people via NYSC, and I've retained them. Now, for me to retain an NYSC person, they blew my mind. Their thinking, their ability to project themselves in the classrooms onto the children's learning, the ability to take the children from point A to point B visibly and sustainably, such that the children can come back and look at it and say, oh, you know what? This is what you wanted me to do. This is what I've done. You know, so those kind of interactions is what I've had. Of course, those who truly wanted to study education, you can see it. They've embraced the philosophy of it, and it's amazing, really, just watching them work. So I in my head, I don't believe that any of these groups should be discounted. I don't believe any of these groups should be thrown out of the classroom. I believe that when you're talking about raising standards in a situation or in a country where we already have teacher shortages, we should actually look at all of these subsets and say, what is it that they need? And based on what they need, again, like a needs gap analysis, how can we take them to where they need to be such that we can actually raise the standards in the education sector? Because the reality is, no matter how great I am as a teacher, I can only be in one classroom at one time. I can't be in several classes at the same time. Of course, I can record me teaching and I'm in all these classes, but when you talk about physically, I can only be in one place. So we need to begin to look at the resources that we have in terms of human resource and say, how do we pull these people to actually, first of all, buy into the idea of 21st century learning? Because if they don't learn it, they can't teach it. So how do we get them to that place where in their minds, they already understand the importance of taking these children to where they need to be? Now, every single person I've worked with, very rarely do they understand the concept of integration. I don't understand how, knowing how little time we have in the classroom, you hope to cover up your curriculum with any level of depth without integrating. It doesn't make any sense. So they're just these basic things that should be covered in the colleges of education, which are not covered. And teachers don't even understand that they have this lack, you know, and so it's up left to raise the standards. Honestly, we need to know, where is everybody? Where do we need to be going? How can we get there? There needs to be a roadmap. And as always, there needs to be stakeholder involvement. So even these teachers and the teacher networks that we have, we need to begin to use them appropriately and say, you know what, this is what should be happening in your networks. This is how you should be interacting in those networks. This is what should be happening in the College of Education. So people like a Rhoda should be pulled in. I don't want to call it Keke. People like a Rhoda should be called in terms of curriculum. We should call it in terms of technology integration. We should call it safety chick in terms of safety, because you know what, safety is not just that I cut my hand. Safety is how safe is that environment in terms of building mind. You know, so all of those things are what we should be looking at. It's almost like the unspoken curriculum and then the unwritten and the written curriculum. You know, so all of these things, when we talk about raising standards for education, we need to make them visible for the teachers. Some of these teachers, it's not visible. They don't even understand what we are talking about, but we expect them to be able to implement it. That's never going to happen. All right.
KK raises a very critical point, though, Rotimi. KK raises a very critical point with respect to the groups or the groups of people who are in our classrooms, whether private. I mean, I think most likely private. But I think it's important, even in the larger society, about these groups of people. I think that's where the argument for what's it called, licensing comes in, because okay, so already we have a TRCN, right, doing their job and limiting your licensing to have for you to have received like 1 year's program, like a PGDE, you know, which then activates being able to get a license. I think that's a significant thing. I think that in addition, what we should do to mitigate for the gaps in trying to get people into the sector, and even though teacher distribution is key here, because then there's a careful balance. Where are they going? We're getting them, but where are they going? Because the what we say in those states, and KK, I'm sure you know this, is that more of the teachers want to be around Benin and the Benin city. No one wants to go to the villages. Now that's a challenge, because there's a reform that needs to happen for there. You know, whether it's like what the Federal Minister of Education has said, you know, stellar things they said. I believe me, those things will work if they pull through it, which is why I always talk about honest investment. You know, it's not nice to say. We don't want nice to say. We want nice to have, right? And so you will see those Edo states in like the classic state in Edo State that I was privy to know, was like the people wanted to be concentrated around Benin and its environs. And so that's part of the challenge. Where are the children? That's where we should be going, wherever they are. So, but your point to like these groups of people being licensed, for me, licensing is key. Like even if it was like a system for EC to plug into any of the system, it's 9 months a program that jumpstarts you into the education sector, especially you doing so well, and we, you know, there's that point of teacher evaluation that needs to happen as well. So we don't just want everybody to come in. We want people who KK has seen and said, you know what, these guys, you know, they're doing so good. I love what they're doing. But KK talks about integration. Now that's a critical part of what the curricular experience should be for teachers in these colleges, and this should be one of the most important topics they should be learning, because that's the only way to get through, you know, children to go, you know, like when I worked with the American curriculum for so long, there's nothing like non-integration. It's like it's such an odd thing for a teacher within that US to not integrate, because every time it's math meets English meets art meets social. It's like normal. You know, so, and that's part of the education system, the education culture and experience, curricular experience that they've received, you know. So yeah, I think, you know, thank you so much, you guys. You're just awesome, man.
What I wanted to say, right, Rhoda, I understand the certification bit, but you know something about me was I actually took the form for PGDE. I paid my money. I never did it. Never. I walked into those classrooms and I'm like, what? Are you joking? Am I doing this because I want a certificate, or am I doing it because I want to learn? It made no sense to me. I dropped it and I went and paid for a course at Harvard because it made no sense to me. But now I can afford that. But not a lot of people can. So if we're looking at raising the standards, we need to look into what the certifications are about. Some of those certifications, and I have staff who did it. They only did it because they wanted to get the certificate. They didn't learn anything in those colleges. And that becomes a problem, right? Because
well, that's what you're saying.
We have a system where
Go ahead, please.
Exactly. The certificates seem to be more important than the learning, than the actual, like you said, they're saying it, but we can't do it. And it doesn't make any sense. I'm not a certificate carrying or touching.
No, but that's part of the reform. Definitely, do we need standards? Do we need licensing? Believe me, we do. I would never take it away because I've seen a lot of rubbish happen in our classrooms. You, my lovely KK, are an outlier. Believe me, people do need to learn, learn the principles, learn the current methodologies. They need to.
It's okay.
So there's something Titi said
off your mic. It's okay.
Yesterday, right?
It's okay. It's okay.
No,
what's the opposite of Sarasoke? Please help me. When you say don't speak out and speak forward. Sarasoke is not correct. Go to me, I hear you, man now. What is this? What is Sarasoke? Sarasoke is talking beside.
The opposite of Sarasoke is Benudake.
Oh, no. See this Yoruba indigenous. So please don't be falling our hands. If you ask us now, we'll be able to give you our own. What is this? I'm calling them out, KK. What kind of
Let's not say the standards, guys. So imagine next month, the month of November is the month of raising standards. So what do we get to do as educators, as experts, as advocates? I want us to be able to translate.
Your mic is breaking up.
My mic is breaking.
No, it's very clear.
Yeah, I'm got you.
What is your speak out?
Nice 2-0. I'm going to get it. All right. So if we were to protest, if next month was the month of
we're protesting.
We are.
The standards. So how do we put this in actionable step? I believe that a lot of things that you've said, so many things that we've said today really paints a picture of what we need to do. But then let's have that resolution that we're going to do it. Because hearing these things from Rhoda, from KK, from Titi, from Safety Chick, it's not a surprise because you are informed. It's not a surprise because you're experts, you're strong voices in the sector. Other people might get excited about it because first is the point of discovery to them that, there's this much rot, there's this difficulty in this area. But then after the show, what next? I want us to be able to translate the energy of expertise and translate it into an experience of execution. How do we get to do that? From energy of expertise to expression of execution.
It's a national agenda. It requires a coming together of various sectors, and whether it's from industry, from government institutions to stakeholder families, community leaders. It's a national agenda. However, the national agenda that brings significant stakeholders into the conversation. And so that's one thing. And then and that's the coming together of minds and of experience. So that's the very first step, because I do not believe that any real change can happen without all of these people. So so that's one in kind of to prepare what the standards would be. And then when we now come together, we then begin to come up with a reform document or a national whatever it's called. And then we now want to look at the various things that we have all mentioned, For me, like I said, is my five. My five is we're going to have to talk about how we attract and recruit, how we professionally develop, how we compensate, how we evaluate. Those are those things that are, for me, are very, very critical. So I don't see, and much more teacher distribution. I don't think we have enough conversation around that, because yes, we can pull everybody, but does everybody want to go to the village? And also, not if everybody doesn't want to go to the village, then we should definitely make sure that everybody goes to the village, or that we're evenly distributed to go to the village. Because when Aisha Yesifu says that she's looking forward to a Nigeria where the child of a nobody, can become somebody without anybody. And that the only way that statement is going to resonate is if we get education and give access to every child everywhere they are. So it's equity in education that we're speaking about, but expertise before equity. Sorry, I'm not sure if I laid out anything, but that's my thought.
That's quite profound. But the challenge we always need to look at is our social reality does not wait for the national discourse. Really, sometimes it's as if it's a wool over our face, because nobody wants the national discourse. Permit me to say, nobody wants the national. Nobody's bringing a national discourse. And so, if you look at it, national is made up of components. And what can we say we can do that can accelerate or that can drive that kind of discourse? As we use that response to wrap up the show, I would like us to do that in 30 seconds each. So, KK.
So we are looking to a private sector driven stuff, right?
I'm thinking of whatever we need to do to start, because this kind of beautiful conversation should not be buried in an episode.
Okay, so we can start by making our contributions, because currently, I know that because of what is going on in the country, questions are being asked, forms are being put out for people to put their thoughts on how they want to change things. So we can start by articulating what exactly are the exact reforms we want in the education sector. If you can send it to me, I would submit it on your behalf. I can do that. So just in specific terms, I've already taken note of one of the things that Ms. Odibo mentioned, where she said focus should be on effective teacher preparation, teacher development, teacher distribution, and teacher reward. And I know that another thing that I saw one of the submissions was about leveraging a system that India did, where India sent their citizens to the US to learn medicine, and then they brought them back to the country to revamp the health sector in India. And that's why India currently leads as one of the countries with top healthcare. And that's why even people from our country go to India on medical tourism, So I don't mind if you can send to me in bullet points and all that, I can submit on behalf.
Cool. That's perfect. I'm also going to be part of a national conversation, hopefully very soon. And then that is something that I'm looking forward to, investing all of my hours in digging through. So whatever we shared today, I think will be critical in helping me, support in the ways that I can. So Rotimi, I don't know what, want us to say, but I would, or share, but I won't take KK's time and Titi's time. I just believe that we should come up with a document, a very well-written document, very simple bullet points of what, like Tika said, of things that maybe our own 5 for 5, and then we then flesh it out. Yeah.
I would say that I would look towards getting a quick win. And so for me, I would say that already, and like I said, it's a quick win. It's a quick win situation to pull up those standards as quickly as possible, based on what you had said. So can we put together a MOOC? If we can put together a MOOC, that also helps us drive data. So in the areas where we know that teachers should have expertise, we can put together a MOOC and then have an assessment after that by leveraging technology. And that way, it's open to everybody across Nigeria, even Africa. These are the standards. How do you approach the standards? You're coached, and then you take an assessment on it, and it's a timed assessment. So people are not going to go and find the sessions of Google, and it's not a right or a wrong answer type of thing. It's a fact-finding mission. So that way, we also understand exactly where people are in terms of mindsets, in terms of skills, in terms of knowledge, in terms of their ability levels in the classroom. So that's what I would do as a really quick win as well.
KK, our people don't use technology that well, though. I'm a living example. I'm working in that space.
So that means we can actually have that in two formats. We can have the online format and the offline format. The only challenge now with offline will be, getting the whole mobilization to get the offline working. But I think that we can make provision for, if it's possible, we should make provision for both sides so that places where online penetration is not really as effective, we're able to still get that data through offline methods. Because this data will be really important. And then you can even say the data across different states in Nigeria. This was the percentage from Lagos. This was the percentage from Kaduna. It just begins to give a sense of what exactly are the problems in each of the different regions.
If it's upskilling, if it's skilling up, we're looking at, because upskilling is skilling up. I don't know. I wish I could show you videos of our teachers like using their fingers. I swear, I wish I could even show myself right now. I'm in a state, in a funny state. You need to see teachers like using their fingers, one at the top of their head to the screen of. Oh my, well, yeah. I'm sorry.
But you see, this is the process in building 21st century teachers. So we can actually look at centers where people can actually go across Nigeria to get that skill up. I don't think we should discount it. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. No. Definitely. I'm 100% with you, KK. I'm actually 100% with you, because there is the crop of young people within the teacher education space or that are serving as student teachers that this will completely be scaled to. No problems there. I'm even referencing the existing teachers or the existing teacher pool across the country. So there is like Safety Chick said, there's two categories of people, probably three, because there's a middle ground. Those ones might need something, a combination here and there, depending on what we intend to achieve. Yeah.
Why are you scratching your head?
I'm not scratching.
I like, hey, this woman is
I scared you this morning, KK. Don't let me get back at you this morning. Okay. All road leads to Busy Minds this morning after the show.
Busy Minds is online, please. They are safety conscious. Thank you, Mr. Richard.
All right, so Titi, let's have Titi's conversation.
Yes, so I've been waiting.
What is there to add? I think the passionate Rhoda has spoken. Animated KK has finished it. Your rabbi will say, and then how will I describe Safety Chick? Safety Chick is Mrs. Articulate has gotten her pen and paper ready down to
scintillating.
I think we've said it, and my prayer. I think I will end with a prayer. My prayer, like Rhoda said, it's a journey. It's one that I just want us to start, because it's something that will take time. So, but let's start. Let's keep moving forward. Changing one teacher at a time. I think that's
Wow. Yeah.
All right. I'd like to say this as we bring this to a close. Thank you for all those who just joined and those who've been joining us all this while. Thank you for your consistency. Thank you. This is how I would like to end the conversation today. And I would say that we need to be able to decide. And maybe I should ask, of course I know, but let me just say this, permit me to say, because of the online audience, right? Do I have your back, guys?
What?
Do I have your back?
Which is it? The one on my back? Of course you do.
Okay. So I've got your backs, right? So what it simply means is this. I think the solution, and I think the step that we need to take, is a road that has never been traveled before. We cannot wait. We cannot wait, and I repeat, we cannot wait to transition in the obvious sequence. It's going to demand a lot. And I know, Rhoda, you know what I'm talking about. We need to take the road that has never been traveled, not even less traveled, never been traveled before. And it must create a point of inflection for all of us. So I think once we know that we have people who've got our backs, like some of us have said today, we take those steps and we begin to forge ahead. As long as there's a movement and there's a direction ahead of us, I think that it will be able to translate talk into action, muster energy. And I'm telling you, the momentum that the protest and the momentum that speaking up has created, we must leverage on it. Now, people won't take voices for granted. People won't take call to action for granted. People won't take open discourse for granted. You know why? Because it can snowball into something in the next few hours. So I'm telling you right now, public officials will be more accessible than before. They will be less glorified than before. And this is the best time to start it. So if somebody asks for an invitation, they will be careful on how they respond. If somebody asks for comfort, you understand what I'm trying to say? So this is what I think that we might need to do. A road that's never been traveled before. KK, pack your bags. Safety tick, pack your bags. TT, pack your tech. Rhoda, pack your curriculum.
That's right.
Ride on a long journey, and we will win.
We will.
Because we always say, he who fights and run will live to fight another day and win. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a great time on the show today.
Yeah.
It's been a great time
to talk.
You said?
We have to talk.
Yes, we will talk. We will walk.
That's right.
And I will not scratch my head again like Keke was saying. All right, so great, guys. Bye. Have a great day. It's going to be a great morning for you. It's going to be a great day for you because it's always a great morning on the Good Morning Education Show. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.